has enjoyed a long and successful career as an actor, having starred in many shows from the early days of Hoerikwaggo to Tafelberg, as well as The Silent Witness of Apartheid. Having received many accolades, most importantly being voted one of the 7 wonders of the world for outstanding achievement in the fields of natural beauty and national icon. Tonight at the Fugard Theatre in Cape Town City, we get to talk directly to the man with the largest tablecloth in the world. Please welcome to the stage, Table Mountain!
Give me a string of pearls and a gussie, and I'm ready for a great night out.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here, really. Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And I think one of the more pertinent questions that you probably get asked in the street often is Table Mountain. That's not a family name. That's a stage name, is it not?
Well, actually, it is. You see, my first name was Hoerikwaggo, meaning Mountain of the Sea. It's a Khoikhoi name. Now, in 1503, Antonio de Saldanha coined the name that I am more popularly known for today. He called me Tabal de Capo, which translates as Table Mountain. And I decided to stick to this name because it's a little easier to remember and spell than Hoerikwaggo.
Indeed, indeed. And you're sort of known as an international celebrity of mountains. Several publications referred to you as the George Clooney of cliffs. Yes, you're also the only natural site on the planet to have its own constellation of stars named after itself. Mensa, which of course means table, and simply we just can't get enough of you. So today, I'd like to talk to you about a cause that's very close to your heart, and that's of course the upgrading of the Cape Flats Fringe Theatre.
That's exactly it, and thank you, because it's great to be here. You know, well, I can't be anywhere else. I love the old city theatre. I mean, who doesn't? But quite honestly, whilst it's been chugging along quite happily, the Fringe has been developing at full tilt since the 1950s. And the Fringe hosts my largest audience, and it needs infrastructure. It's shameful that a turnout of 3.9 million spectators don't have the same resources as the 60,000 seats in the old city theatre. Now
right.
Here is a quick pic of the theatre arrangement in Cape Town. In red is the old city theatre, that's that little bit up top. And then in yellow, you can see the Cape Flats Fringe.
Yes, the Flats Fringe is massive in comparison with the old city theatre. So why has it taken you so long to invest in infrastructure there? I mean, we are in 2012 now, it's the 21st century.
Yeah, true, that's a good question. You see, I initially signed up with an incredibly restrictive contract with my then production company,
Apartheid.
And you see, under that contract, I could only perform for the old city theatre, and I severed that contract in 1994. Since then, I've been working flat out to make up for lost time. I was able to perform overseas to international audiences, and I've been involved in a key number of initiatives, such as the 2010 World Cup,
right,
and the World Design Capital Bid, which we won.
Which is 2014.
There we go. Yes, it is still coming, but we've won it already. And I've been performing for an increasing number of foreign visitors pretty much now.
Right, so all these tourist visitors, they're going to the old city theatre then?
Pretty much.
So then, what will be this new image of yours for the Cape Flats Fringe?
Well, I'm working on it, but here's a sneak peek. There's a little mountain jack.
Oh,
Cheeky.
no, cheeky.
Yes, so you see, the thing is that I feel that every show that I've acted in,
it sort of contributes to our, sorry to interrupt you there, but I found most of your work, it contributes to the socio-political dynamics that go on around you in this Cape audience.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that first show? The first show you ever did, because that must have been quite special.
It was, actually, not for your lights, but it was lovely. Hoerikwaggo in 1654 was my first act.
Hoerikwaggo?
Yes.
Right.
And I was really wild in those days. I guess I fell into it by chance after an ambitious director. Yeah, that's it. There's me to the right. For my salad days, I was a lot greener then. Now, I performed for a Dutch East India Company, called the Dutch East India Company. And the director was a very ambitious little man called Jan van Riebeek. And he gave me rather a large role in his very lowly budgeted production.
That's very politely of pushing it.
Yes, I thought I'd try to be as polite as possible. Look, I generally provided the role of, well, provider. I was overlooking the landscape of cattle, hunting, food, gathering, a bit of shelter. And here's an extract of the show we performed for the Old City Theatre. You see, back then our audience for the show was quite tiny. We drew a following from the local San or Bushmen, that's them up in the corner, in the gods, as it were. And unfortunately, they weren't the sort of audience Van Riebeek had been hoping for. We had a good few brawls in the Old City, which was a little unfortunate.
Well, that did change with your second show, Tafelberg. It came out in 1767.
Yeah, that's it.
Really? You don't look it.
Oh.
Well, 1767. But in that show, we saw you get more involved in your performance. You know, gaining maturity, one might say, as an actor. You know, the sets were more elaborate, and it was generally a much more international film, receiving particularly good reviews from Holland.
Yes, well, you know, the Dutch, they love a good treat.
Yes.
And Tafelberg was a much more international show. It was really the story of a tiny station with a castle and a garden that became a town.
Oh, the little town that could. So, what was your role in this?
I was quite relieved to find myself in a far more organised show. And my role was again to be a provider, but also to be a landmark beacon for sailors when they were sailing in and out of the harbour. It was also during Tafelberg that I became involved in making structural productions for the city theatre, namely directing the construction of buildings along and perpendicular to my rivers. I established the urban boundaries of Demoynecourt, Singel and Craft streets, which you can pretty much imagine in there, and that made it a lot easier for audiences to access refreshments, which was really water. By 1700, the characteristic 60 by 60 metre grid formation that we're familiar with today, that's it there, became a standard feature of the theatre and was quite visible on our seating plans at the time.
Well, in God Save the Queen, I believe that was your next production. That must have been one hell of a time. Because, I mean, your producers from the Dutch East India Company walked out on the job in 1789, left it to run itself, eventually declaring bankruptcy in 1794. Then, a year later, the British sailed into the Bay to try and take control of the situation. Then, 8 years of a Batavian director came in. And then after that, the British came back in. I mean, you must be pretty patient not to just throw in that tablecloth and walked off set at this point.
Well, this is it. Again, I couldn't. It was certainly a confusing time. You see, I believed in the vision of the British directors in making more permanence and a far more pleasant theatre from which people could view the shows. The British brought with them a great deal of international publicity, which helped the Cape to become a commercial centre in its own right, and they had 42 small shops in 1806.
42?
I know, it's a strange number, but back then...
Fascinating to remember it.
Well, I tell you the things I can't remember. Let me be started.
That's the famous.
There we go. With the arrival of the British, though, a lot of the Dutch design features like the stoops were removed because the traffic became so much more and the streets had to become that much wider. Now, the architecture of the early 1800s also reflects the prosperity of this transitional period, with materials being imported largely from England and improved building construction techniques, and we were thus able to build more elaborate theatre seats, such as 93 Bree Street House, the City Hall, and Victorian houses with their brooky lace.
Yeah, prosperity, yes, but if I may interrupt Mr. Mountain, it seems that the Cape Town was quite a leisurely destination at the time, you know, people walking to the pier and drinking their tea and whatnot, but however, the show ends badly with the outbreak of World War I, rapid population growth, traffic congestion, you know, and the problem of limitations with lateral expansion for the city because of its topographical setting. And here it is in the sequel to the show. Here it is, The Dream of Modernism,
yes.
Seeking Utopia,
Yeah.
which was later renamed to The Silent Witness of Apartheid.
Well,
there are some major changes. The changes in the structure of the city and the socio-political orders. I mean, hang on, let's go back a bit and get a visual on this one. I just want to see, here you have it. The modern government, or international style, came to Cape Town. And this was influenced by the new materials and building techniques, I'll give that to you. But as well as the global problem of there just not being enough space in city theatres to accommodate people. You needed more seats. So did you buy into the modernist philosophy behind the show before we get into the rest of it?
Look, it's a tricky one because I think we all bought into the modernist thinking, at least in the beginning. And we were at least curious about it. I mean, the style of the seats grew out of the mental and physical rubble of World War I. It was linked philosophically to the socialist and Marxist thinking of that time. We were open to embracing a new, clean, structured theatre of the future. We welcomed these new designers with their reinforced concrete and their sheet glass and steel frames.
Yes, but this is also when the area known as the foreshore was reclaimed and redeveloped, and that created, what, 194 hectares of just new reclaimed land. It was raw, a blank slate for this old city theatre. So could you tell me a bit about the expansive remodeling that took place at that point? Because it's obviously still with us today and quite bone of contention.
This is exactly it. Look, the foreshore represented a kind of absolute blank canvas onto which architects and planners could reproduce their own versions of social orders within a city theatre. The earliest report on the foreshore acknowledged the importance of the area in relation to its unique natural setting, but the design ignored this. And still to this day, and it sort of shunned the two most important dynamics of any city, its people and its environment. Now, the Cape Doctor loved screaming through this wide open space and did a lot of tricks and it blew the audience over, which is kind of added to the unpleasantness of the foreshore, the back seats of the theatre. Now, you see, the 1948 national election saw the entire country being signed on to a production company called Apartheid, and a series of extremely hard-lined directors heralding an era that would become increasingly dominated by strictly institutionalized audience segregation began. And the darker-coloured members of the audience were forcibly removed from my amphitheatre, and their tickets to the show were limited to matinee performances, and then presentation of tickets called passports. It was all right. Look, there were no real alternatives at those people's disposal. I mean, the coloured audience, so-called coloured, crowded outside the old city theatre. You can kind of imagine it just behind me there, and they were in makeshift seats, and this was the beginning of the Cape Flats Fringe. And it has been ignored for years as a second-rate theatre. It's kind of a dormitory suburb.
Right, and it was in the early 50s, I think, where we see the beginning of the major renovations to the physical and social aspects of the old city theatre. I mean, it must have been... How did you feel about that?
That was pretty grim. You see, the apartheid theatre directors became obsessed with total transformation of the old city theatre into a 20th century theatre just for a white audience. So they orchestrated the buildings of the major highways of Eastern Boulevard, that was in 1977, as well as the first high-rise buildings.
And the highway that isn't finished yet.
Yes.
Built to last, though. Built to last.
Forward thinking. You see, they gave us buildings like Rebel Fox's BP Centre and the Dyser Park Towers, you can see in front of me there, Garden Centre, the Nico Milan, which is of course now Artscape, the Civic Centre and the Golden Acre, and they kind of imposed a new and scary scale of audience determination to watch the shows from within the old city theatre. And what then happened was that I kind of watched in horror as one of my favourite areas of the theatre was destroyed, and that was District 6. And that was full of life. And I really wanted to put my foot down, but I couldn't. It was around this point in 1966 that I made the decision to stop solely performing for the old city theatre and to concentrate on how I could reinvent myself in a way that might connect with my relegated audience in the Cape Flats Fringe.
I mean, that really was a terrible time, but good for you for taking steps. I mean, that must have been traumatic for you, not being able to put your foot down, not being able to make these changes, and as watching this old city theatre just be reshaped around you. The formation and the rapid growth of the Cape Flats Fringe going on, District 6 being destroyed, the negativity in the audience who were still going to the theatre. I mean, what happened next? It does have a happy ending, because your next production was, of course,
well, it
Rainbow
was,
Nation.
There we go. And it was this amazing turn of events. There was this little local director from the Eastern Cape, Nelson Mandela, elected in 1994 from within a black audience. And he brought within him an immense change, not only in the black audience, but in all people in this country. An immense change in the national mindset, and he brought unity in the audiences and a fresh burst of energy to the Cape. Yeah, now Nelson Mandela was really phenomenal to work for. You know, at his age, you'd have thought a directorial debut might have been a little beyond him. But together with his production house, the ANC, well, they were really the stagehand.
The production house was
Democracy!
Democracy!
They really pulled off something that was nothing short of a miracle in this country.
Yeah, and it was marvelous. It was wonderful. But how did these positive changes in mindset, say, and legislation? I mean, how did they affect the theatres themselves on the ground?
You see, they did and they didn't, because Cape Flats Fringe is today still relying on productions from the Old City Theatre to sustain itself from an economic and entertainment point of view. The Cape Flats Fringe generally watches reruns of the productions done for the Old City Centre. And I think it's high time that a director invests in writing and generating a new show that is inclusive for everybody, including specifically the Fringe audience. A show that would make the Old City Theatre spectators visit the show in the Fringe. Exactly, and that's the kind of cultural exchange that I'm really excited about.
Okay, and I believe that you're going to be achieving this through your next production. You're in pre-production for it. It's a blockbuster called Sifuna Ikamva Elinye, which means inclusive future.
Exactly.
A show you're co-writing, co-directing, starring in, and you're working with the production company, Simunye. They are ultra in production company at the moment.
Exactly.
And so the show's been described here as a most innovative production in terms of maximizing the entertainment effects with a minimum budget. And I believe it's to be performed exclusively for a Fringe audience. I mean, that's fantastic. And without spoiling the ending now, please, could you take us through your thoughts and the planning strategies for this blockbuster that's going to transform the Cape Flats Fringe into an independent theatre in its own right?
Sifuna Ikamva Elinye is really about wanting a future of inclusiveness. And it literally is something unlike any other show that's been put on at the Cape. It's wholly dependent on audience participation, but not right now. You can breathe easy. It's kind of, you see, what we're trying to do is to get people to participate of their own. And we've tried to start a promotional campaign to get that going, and it's called Love Your Seat.
Love your seat.
Love your seat.
Oh, love your seat.
Love your seat.
seat.
Love your seat. Because you see, it's really a rebranding exercise. It's learning to love the seat you are sitting in, wherever that seat is. And we want the audience to invest in their own seats and to take care of them, maybe reupholster them, and to build on them. Because you see, when we're dealing with a theatre of this size, audience participation is a must. You might recognise our T-shirts and the logo. Yeah.
Yes, I have seen those T-shirts out and about. But how are you and your producers, Simunye, how are you going to achieve this vision? I mean, what are the logistics of the transformation of this scale?
Look, our three strategies are pretty much the following. The first one is just love your seat. The second one is, I plan on donating personally a couple of 100 tons of famous to the scheme.
100 tons?
I've got
Ladies and gentlemen, table mum, can we get a round of applause?
that we really need a major indigenous greening up of the land. And the third strategy for us is really to improve the connections between the Old City Theatre and the Cape Flats Theatre. And this is a big one. And it's really one for the heads of state in South Africa, because we need major infrastructural change to be implemented in order for us to have a chance of cultural exchange between the Old City and the Cape Flats theatres. See, and cultural exchange amongst artists, as you will know, is really imperative to the quality of one's shows. And you know, it's something that the audience can participate in. So love your seat.
Love your seat. Love where you love your seat. And so, do you have any final thoughts before you leave? I don't want to keep you. I know you've got any pressing things to do. They're turning the lights on in a bit.
I know. Here we go. But as a veteran of the stage, I may call myself that, and as somebody whose audience fan base is growing, I'm kind of calling on Cape Town's citizens. You see, if you join us and get involved and love your seat and sign up as a stagehand, plant your own trees, build a couple of new seats and write new stories, we can all start to share something together on stage, which is something we haven't really done before.
It's incredible. Those are some very powerful visions coming from Table Mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, please another round of applause for the spectacular icon. It's incredible, an inclusive future. It's what we need.
It is what we need.
And if you love your seats, then that's the way to change it.
Over, which is really what we're on about. And I think that this is such a significant city, and it's such a city of diversity and of contrast that we deserve to be inclusive, and we deserve to enjoy each other in that diversity, in an inclusive society. But we all have to work together, really, towards an independent fringe.
Well,
that's it from my side, and thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you.